I'm Judy Hall, and I'm the author of the Crystal Bible series and also Crystal Prescriptions. And I am particularly interested in EMFs and the crystals that can be used for those, which has led me to writing a whole book on it. Having been electrosensitive all my life, crystals are my answer, and I'd like to share those with you now, some of the practical things that you can do and some of the reasons why we do them. I discovered that I was very sensitive to EMFs when I was not quite 5. My father, who was a very clever man, built a television. This was the late 40s. Very few people had a television, and he decided to build one from scratch. I don't have a picture, but I do have what they looked like in those days. Only ours had a cabinet door because my mother didn't like the look of the thing. As a child, you can imagine I was fascinated. There was this green screen, no black and white and certainly no colour, and this tiny picture that I had to sit very close to look at. And after a few minutes, I would go very sleepy, I'd curl up on the floor, and I had constant colds and really wasn't enjoying having a television. Now that I'm older, grown up, many years later, I have discovered that the more sensitive I've got, the more psychically sensitive I've got especially, the more electrosensitive I've got. My first discovery of a crystal to help was black tourmaline, and I wore this for a very long time. Then I went into a shop and somebody said, "Have you seen shungite?" And it was like the world sort of opened up into this marvellous place where I could actually walk about without feeling too bad. And I'm always wearing shungite, and we're going to talk about that in a moment. But it's a lifesaver. So people often ask me, well, exactly what happens to you when you are EMF sensitive and you get within a field? Well, here's the answer. This is my aura when I hold a mobile phone and it's switched on. It's not connected, it's just there. My aura disappears, as you can see, and I feel dizzy, can't hear, my head just goes completely muzzy, my knees go weak, and I shake. Down at the bottom, you can just see what happens when we put, in this case, a black tourmaline on the mobile phone. My aura was restored, not wholly healed, but it was much better. And we will be showing you in a minute how to use shungite to protect your mobile phone. This is shungite. This particular one is elite shungite, noble shungite, and it's quite glassy and nothing comes off on your finger. When you watch the EMF for the substation protection, you'll see that I used raw shungite, which is very greasy, very messy, and leaves your fingers very black. So elite shungite is one of the forms, and the other much more greasy form can be moved into shapes like this. Now, the reason that shungite is so special is it's composed of buckyballs, little hollow spherical spheres, and they capture energy. And it's long been used in Russia. Only came over to England a little while ago. And I walked into a shop and this particular piece was presented to me, and the crystal shop owner said, "Have you seen this? It works against EMFs." And that was it. I was hooked. I then had just about every form of shungite that was possible. I put it on my mobile phone, which I don't use. I put it on my computer, which I use all the time, and this pyramid sits by it. It has a plate on it as well. I have it all around my house, all along the windowsills, because of the EMF. And I drink it. Now, I can't recommend this to you. I can only tell you this is what I do. I put raw shungite into water for 48 hours, and research has shown that it becomes biologically active and it keeps me healthy. One thing I must mention is that even though shungite is extremely good at soaking up negative energies, it does need cleaning, as do all the other crystals. I use a mixture of cleartolite and Z14, which will be on my website. They're Petaltone essences, and you can go to my website or to any of my books for how to clean in more detail. So let's introduce you to some of the other crystals that I use all the time for protection. I mentioned briefly my first ever EMF protection was black tourmaline. This is a nice big chunk which I took from beside my computer when we were looking at what we were going to talk about for this video. Usually it is one of the crystals that you can leave for some time before you clean it. But if you're using it for EMFs or for protection against ill-wishing, anything like that, I recommend you clean it daily. It comes in various colours, tourmaline, but black is what I find best for protection. And this is a particularly useful piece. This is black tourmaline in natural black smoky quartz. Some of the smoky quartz you get is irradiated, not very healthy. This has got natural irradiation, but pointed away from the source where you're sitting, or place where you're sitting, and pointed so that it sends back the energies from any source of EMFs. Really useful. This is a fairly new crystal. Amber has always been used because it's electrostatic. If you rub it, and I might just demonstrate on this piece of silk, it actually produces sparks and it will stick. And this is black amber from Indonesia, which has carbon in it and which has come from an ancient forest apparently that burnt down. Now, chunks like this are extremely useful. Put against your computer, put around your house. We'll be looking at that later. This is one of my favourites because it's named after me, although I called it Eye of the Storm. So in the States, it's known as Judy's Jasper. In England, it's Eye of the Storm, and you can see why on this piece. It's not actually a jasper. It's unknown exactly what the composition is. But when you hold it, and that's what I'm wearing in addition, everything goes still. Everything is moving around you, like being in the eye of a cyclone, eye of a storm, but it's peaceful. And it's excellent for chaos if you're in the middle of chaos, but it also does repel EMFs. One of the things that I noticed after a while of using EMF protection and clearing out the toxic energy, because it draws off toxic energy, is that then left an energy gap in my energy field. And I needed to put something in which actually held the space. So one of my favourite things is an andalite crystal, which basically is frozen light. It's wonderful stuff. And also the selenite. I usually have selenite around because that's also frozen light, and it just settles in between my cells and holds the space and helps with the protection. Then this is one of my absolute favourites because it's free. Flint. This is a piece from my garden, and if you grid this around, you'll see when you are looking at the substation that we alternated shungite and flint because the two work very well together. And so you can protect yourself with this. But more importantly, you can ground yourself with this. Now, it's something that I've noticed time and time again. People who are ungrounded have far less protection, natural protection against EMFs. I use this for a grounding exercise, which is on my website. And you just simply put it between your feet, picture a grounding cord going deep into the earth through the flint, and it really helps you to be grounded, and it gives you a more solid structure to your aura. So wonderful stuff. If you don't live in an area of natural flint, go on holiday. So, having rushed through Smoky quartz, let's have another look. This one again is a naturally irradiated one, and this one is a much lighter one. Smoky quartz is really useful for putting in corners. You can grid a house with it, as you can with tourmaline, or you can use it to draw off toxic energies, and we will have a look at this grid in a minute. It's very easy, very cheap to get hold of, and the wonderful thing with these crystals is they don't have to be perfect, they don't have to be big, don't have to be showy. You know, a small rough piece, few chips off the point, doesn't matter, they still work. But talking about beautiful, this is rose quartz. This is beautiful and it's so tactile. It's a great stone to wear. It's also good to put in its raw state around the house, because being quartz, it does work both to improve the energies within the house or within your aura, but also to protect you. So this is a protection grid and a clearing grid. These crystals are all smoky quartz. Point in. If you put point in, it channels energy towards the central crystal, which in this case is a selenite, to bring in light. So it's bringing in the toxic energy, it's being transmuted, and then light is being sent out. And this will radiate through the whole house. So if you want to heighten the impact of your grid, you're wearing a crystal, whatever you're doing to protect yourself, there are various things. One is use pure quartz. Quartz is piezoelectric. That means it actually generates energy, and it also absorbs it and holds it. So it balances the energy. It is really helpful, especially placed in a grid. The other thing that I always do is the Petaltone essence. I add that to whichever crystal I'm using, and that's all you need is one drop and it's done. Or you can make a very specific grid around a child's bed, for instance, a garden, a computer, anything that is going to be generated EMFs. Television is one of the things that people don't tend to think of, but if you walk up to it and you put your hand in front of a television that's just switched on, you can actually feel the electricity. So I have a huge piece of cathedral quartz right next to mine. One other thing while we're talking about Petaltone essences is this wonderful stuff, EMF Protection. Again, the details are on my website or in my books. But this on top of shungite, you just simply add a drop and it really enhances the effect. I always put it on my shungite that I wear every day, and I'm doubly protected. So one of the ways that you can protect yourself is to use a simple Star of David grid, which is 2 triangles upside down. You just lay one stone and then another, and the point that brings energy down. You lay another triangle facing up, and that actually sends energy. If you join the crystals with a wand, then anything in the middle is either trapped or it's amplified. So if we put a smoky quartz in, we trap. If we put a clear quartz in, we radiate energy, we radiate protection. If we put a black tourmaline in, then we really are gathering in the energy so that it's trapped and it won't be released. It's extremely useful for putting in front of power stations, any source of EMF radiation at all. So I live opposite a substation, and the reason that I'm so concerned about that is because Professor Dennis Henshaw, who was the former head of Human Radiation Effect Group at Bristol University, had said about electricity substations, substations may be an issue. It is because they are surrounded by electromagnetic fields, the equipment and cables they contain produce, that they have to be treated with caution. Measured electromagnetic fields, such as those produced by substations, have been associated with health effects such as cancer, depression, dementia, infertility, miscarriage, heart problems, etc. And Professor Henshaw no longer works, he's retired, but in Crystal Prescriptions I have found his research very useful, and there are over 100 symptoms of EMF sensitivity and the illnesses they can cause. So you'll notice there is a danger of death warning here, and one of the easiest ways to keep the electromagnetics contained is just to lay shungite, as I have done here, all the way around. And fortunately there's quite a lot of natural flint here, which means that it can go in between the shungite, and if someone does come along, because the local children, despite the warning, do tend to play here, then they might not notice the flint even if they pick up the shungite. And we have done all the way around as far as we can get. And you may be able to hear the very loud hum in the background. That is the noise that I have to try and sleep against. And I can feel, despite the shungite, despite everything I'm wearing, I can feel my whole body going into shutdown. My head's beginning to melt. I feel really fuzzy, really dizzy. And I'm going to get Julia, who's doing the filming, just to say if she can feel any effects from this, even though we've got the shungite in place.
So that's the substation, and as we were walking towards it, I felt slightly nauseous. And as soon as Judy started putting the shungite down in a line, the feeling has gone away, and my head just felt clearer. And there's like a pressing headache between my eyes when I feel the EMF, and that was gone as well. So the effect of using shungite is pretty much immediate, really.
So this is a mobile phone protector pad. You can actually get them smaller, but this is the size that I find most effective. They've got a sticky back which you simply remove, and then it can be stuck onto the back of any mobile phone. You'll be able to protect yourself, and you can put your case back on. It's totally discreet. Even if you are using a shungite protector on your mobile phone, I would suggest that you do not have it in your bedroom at night. Research is showing that it has very ill effects, including insomnia. So children are particularly vulnerable to EMFs because they don't have much protection naturally. One of the things you can do for them, or for yourself in fact, is to put one black tourmaline on each leg of your bed, make a square around it, and remember to clean it frequently. If it's really strong EMF, you can put another black tourmaline in the centre, or you could put a shungite pyramid in the centre, and this will protect them while they're in bed. Equally, one of these in each corner of the room, that's how big it needs to be, will protect your house or your office, wherever you are. And it's such a simple thing to do. Just remember, clean it, give it a spray occasionally, and that's all that it needs. Well, we've looked at the effects of electricity substations, but there's also the pylons that are associated with them. In England, we still have a lot of above ground wires, and Professor Henshaw did huge research on that, and the effects can be felt up to half a mile away. Quite often if you drive under electric pylons, under the lines that connect them together and actually take the electricity across a road, for instance. I have a friend who actually faints as she does that. Not very good for road safety. So the solution for her was to put two big smoky quartz, one either side of the road, so that she could go through. But you can put any of these, black tourmaline, shungite, smoky quartz or flint, around the base of the pylon if you can access it, and that will assist. The thing that we have in England now are smart meters. They're trying to make us all have electricity meters that monitor our energy use, and we're getting more and more reports of people being really ill as a result of that. Even if one is in a block of flats, people can feel it at the top of the block. So one of these, smoky quartz, big chunk of raw shungite, big piece of black tourmaline on top of the meter. You need to get it as close to the meter as possible. If you can't, if it is in a block of flats and you're above it, put the stone over the spot where it's coming through, and that will protect you. But better still, say no. One of the places you might not think about having EMF fields is your car. But actually, especially now with all the new onboard computers, they generate a huge amount of EMFs and they don't discharge themselves. So something like this large piece of black tourmaline or a large chunk of the quartz, the amber, the shungite, just place it in your car and it will soak these things up. But you must remember to clean it. If you've done a long journey, quick spray. This is just a few drops of clear to lighten Z14 in the spray with EMF. Clean it like that, put it back in your car, and that will do it. If you're on a plane, the effect is even stronger because it's basically an electromagnetic cage. And I always travel wearing shungite, a special plate which helps to deflect the effect, my Priscilla bluestone and shungite. And I put shungite all the way around here because first of all you've got to navigate through the body scanner, the x-ray machine in the airport. And I always get pulled aside and I always get questions, what's that, and that? And I say, crystals to protect me against what you're doing to me now. And my local airport, they're getting quite used to me, but foreign airports, it can be quite difficult. But once you're through, once you're clear, once you're on the plane, Preseli Bluestone, I can't tell you, it really helps with jet lag as well as being protective. For me, it's an essential crystal to travel with, and you need it on your person so that that electromagnetic cage is just gently repelled and you don't feel the effects, and you will get off feeling much better. So I hope you found this helpful. We've not had much time to give you too many details. You'll find all the details in here. Crystal Prescriptions 3, Crystal Solutions to Electromagnetic Pollution and Geopathic Stress, an A to Z guide. The reason it's an A to Z guide is we have a list at the back for all the symptoms, but in the front you have all the grids you need, all the symptoms, all the information. You can also find it on www.judyhall.co.uk and on my Facebook pages.